Chapter 31. Jags looked up at the spectators. Show's over. What was it about this woman that drove him crazy? He couldn't read her like he read other people. Not once had he come across somebody he couldn't see through. He strode to the elevator and jabbed at the down arrow. Come on. Come on. Turning a corner, he spotted her in an office at the end of the hall. Star looked up just as he crossed her doorway. You have an office.
If you spent more time working and less time chatting, you'd probably have an office too. Rain?
She waved him forward. Rain gave Jags a curt nod and handed Star a manila folder. Here are the TIP reports you asked for. He looked at Jags. Sorry about the misunderstanding the other night. The guy almost looked sincere. Jags wasn't one to hold a grudge, and if possible, he avoided conflict with most people. Touching this man could pitch him into a convulsive seizure, but cursed with an insatiable curiosity, he offered his hand. I'm Jags. They shook. A vision played. A young girl curled on the ground in front of a ratty pickup truck. Her long dark hair lay strewn across her bloodied face. A sharp pain singed Jags's fingers and hand as if he'd just stuck a fork in an electrical outlet. Hissing, he snatched his hand away and shook it.
Check the last page.
Star handed the folder back to Rain.
The dimension changes we discussed in this morning's meeting are not reflected.
She pulled her chair under her and sat.
The display screen needs to increase from 3 to 5 inches. Make the appropriate changes and get back to me with the correct report.
When he turned to leave, she added,
I need the report before you leave today.
Rain gave her a mock salute and left. Her impatient gaze turned onto Jags.
As you can see, I'm busy, so I'd appreciate it if you left.
Has he worked here long?
Why?
Stay away from him, she scoffed.
I'm his boss. I can hardly stay away from him.
The guy is whacked. I can read people. Ask Tilly. And I know this guy is tipping the scale from disturbed and crashing into psychotic.
You're telling me this because you're worried about my well-being? You hate me, and we both know it.
Maybe, but that doesn't mean I want you devoured by Hannibal Lecter either.
I need you to leave.
His eyes narrowed. You tear me down in front of everyone I work with, and now you dismiss me as you would a child. She clasped her hands on top of the desk.
I came upstairs to offer my support, not to be insulted or play flirtatious games. I don't know what kind of game is going on between us, but I'm done playing.
Placing his palms on her desk, he leaned in, his long ash hair falling forward. Sugar. She leaned back, increasing the distance between them. The game has yet to begin. As he stormed from her office, he heard her let out a breath. He grinned, realizing just how much he intimidated her. He may intimidate her, but she confused the hell out of him. One minute, he wanted to suck on her toes. The next, he wanted to spray paint her fancy schmancy office with blues, greens, and pinks. Stealing the phrase from one of his favorite shirts, he'd write, "Hey bitch, try sex, it really works." She was a snob, and he so looked forward to shoving her off her pedestal. And why the hell couldn't he read her? Hey?
Ready to go to lunch?
You have no idea. Peep's Cafe was unusually busy for a Monday. 9 out of the 10 tables already taken. Zeke and Jags managed to secure the last.
Can I start you off with something to drink?
Jags offered his hand.
Hi, I'm Jags. I'm Cooper.
Good to meet you.
I'll have a Dr. Pepper, buffalo fingers, a side of coleslaw, and a side of green beans. Do you have any soup? Broccoli cheese. Fantastic. I'll have a bowl of that and a side of cheese fries.
I'll have an iced tea and the Asian chicken salad, Zeke said, with the house dressing. You seem like you're feeling better. Thanks to you, Cam's out of jail. I can't tell you what a relief that is. Glad to hear it. But I'm about to bring you down again. Could you wait for dessert before you bust me in half? Cam turned down my attorney friend. He's pleading guilty. Both Jags's fists tightened on top of the table. He's not pleading guilty. Cam says he is. I don't give a... Jags clasped his hands behind his neck, elbows out, and leaned back. I'll talk to him. You think you can change his mind? Jags splayed a hand over his heart. Have we met? Zeke laughed. Okay, I'll tell my friend to hang on for a while. Please do. Star stood beside a tall, brown-haired man wearing stained jeans, a blue plaid shirt, work boots, and a brown cowboy hat. A real-life cowboy. Jags resisted a snicker. Not that he had anything against genuine cowboys, but any man who would put up with her had to be a real loser. Jags and Zeke stepped aside and let them pass, then entered the elevator. Before the fat metal door finished closing, Jags stuck out his hand. This is just too delicious to pass up, he thought. Zeke, I'll meet you up there. Star! The couple turned. You must be none of your business. Excuse me? Aren't you going to introduce us? This is Ty. Jags offered his hand. Hi, I'm Jags, a friend of Star's. Ty eyed Jags before accepting and shaking his hand. Jags tightened his grip, keeping a solid grasp. Waiting. He let go of Ty's hand and slapped his thigh. Hot damn! Linda? I'm sorry? I just remembered I need to talk to Linda in accounting? He gave Ty a sideways look. That's what department she's in, right? The heel of his hand slammed into his own forehead. Silly me. How would you know? You don't work here. Frowning, Star pulled Ty toward the door. Come on, let's go. Jags waved. You kids have a good time. Smiling and shaking his head, he pressed the up arrow. A little more than an hour later, Jags heard his name from across the room. Excuse me, could you tell me where I can find Jags? Jags popped his head over the top of the cubicle partition, his hand waving over his head. Hey, Ty. Shuffling toward Jags, Ty glanced at the floor. What brings you by? Jags waved his hand across the empty chair beside his desk. What can I do for you? How did you know? How was lunch with Star? It's not what you think. I'm thinking it's exactly what I think. I sure hope you're rapping that rascal. Linda's had more ass than a last row seat in a movie theater. It was only once. It'll never happen again. Jags held up his hands.
None of my business. So you won't tell Star. Your secret's safe with me.
Ty rose and stepped toward the corridor.
But can I ask you something?
Ty nodded.
If she's not doing it for you, why don't you move on? I mean, life's too short.
Ty sat down.
She does do it for me.
Jags took a sip of his coffee.
Apparently not. We're getting married in 10 months. Then everything will be better. What kind of logic is that? How does marriage make sex more satisfying?
Taking another sip of his coffee, he caught Ty's sheepish grin over the rim of the ceramic mug.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
Jags used his smiley-faced Ty to wipe the coffee off the corner of the desk.
You guys don't. 10 months. We'll be married. Everything will be better.
Ty stepped toward the corridor and looked back.
Do you know Nate?
Jags forced his gaze from the tunnel, pulling him deeper into his monitor.
He runs the on-site medical clinic. Of course I know him.
Don't tell him either.
Don't tell him that you're not sleeping with his sister-in-law, or that you cheated on his sister-in-law. I don't know how well you know him, but he can be a little over the top when it comes to Tilly and Star. You have no idea how difficult he can make my life.
Jags forced his focus from another bout of tunnel vision swirling him into his desk.
How do you think Star would react if she walked in on you and Linda? Hypothetically speaking, of course. She'd be upset, I'm sure. How profound.
If Ty noticed Jags' sarcasm, he didn't show it.
Listen, I gotta get to work.
Would she leave you?
Of course not. We've been together for 5 years.
Ty stepped out of the cubicle.
I really have to go.
He paused in the corridor and glanced back at Jags.
So you're not gonna say anything? Star and I aren't the best of friends. Even if I did, I doubt she'd believe me. It won't happen again.
You're so cute.
Excuse me?
You actually believe what you're saying.
The 20th century.
Where are you?
I saw some of the most horrible
He stomped past Gramps and marched into the kitchen.
would have to experience themselves.
Where the fuck are you?
Aren't we in a good mood?
You're pleading guilty?
Jags was the emotional one of the crew. Realizing this, Cam tried to be understanding of his feelings, but this time was different. He simply didn't know if his conscience would let him plead not guilty. I'm not doing this with you. Jags grabbed him by the scruff of his stained white shirt and threw him across the room, planting him flat on his ass. He wagged a finger.
You are not pleading guilty. Bastard. I won't let you do this.
Cam lay on his back, kicking at Jags. It's not up to you. The glass sailed over their heads and shattered against the refrigerator. Gramps stood in the doorway.
You always have a choice. Always.
He turned and shuffled back to the living room. With the back of his hand, Jags wiped the blood from his chin.
What the hell does that mean?
Cam propped his elbows on his bent knees and buried his face in the palms of his hands. I don't want to hurt you.
Then don't plead guilty.
But I am guilty.
I don't give a shit.
If you do this for me,
I'll never ask another thing from you as long as I live.
I've heard that once or twice before. A smile slid across Jags's face. Wrapping his arms around Cam's neck, he gave him a shaky hug. Not guilty. Cam gently pushed him away. He didn't want to hurt Jags, and he sure as hell didn't want to roll around the floor for the next 5 or 6 hours either, which is exactly what Jags would do if Cam didn't concede. He'd rather deal with a guilty conscience the rest of his life than hurt either of his brothers. Besides, the evidence against him was strong. No matter what he pleaded, he was surely going to jail for a long time, if not put to death. If he pleaded not guilty, at least he could give Jags the satisfaction of knowing he tried to help himself. And if he gets convicted, his conscience would be cleared. Not guilty. Cam grasped Jags's forearm. Brothers. Jags' smile beamed as he returned the gesture. Always.